So, earlier we talked about how Mark was one of the earliest written Gospels of the four, and this is a big deal for the accuracy of Mark also. See, when we look at the time that Mark was dated for, we see that it was only 20 years after Jesus' death, which for a historical record is very, very close. A lot of skeptics will try to say that 20 years is a long time to forget details, but what you have to keep in mind is that from a historical point of view, we're used to affirming things as reliable historical sources that have been like over hundreds of years away from the time that they actually happened. On top of which, Mark isn't even the first document of the New Testament written. That would be some of Paul's earliest letters, which only date back about like 10 or 15 years after Jesus' death. And basically, what we get when we see that is that Paul is writing about this Christ guy who apparently was resurrected, and you wonder, who's this guy? And then you see Mark's gospel pop up, and it's like, oh, that's who Jesus is. From a historical perspective, this is very close together and really tight. And just to explain how tight it is, the original Quran, which is supposed to be the direct sayings from Muhammad, is dated 100 plus years after the death of Muhammad. So even one of the second most prominent religions has its material beyond 100 years from when it was supposed to have been written. Take that and compare it to the Gospel of Mark as well as Paul's letters, and you'll see that if you had to choose between 100 plus years for your historical religious documents or only 10 to 20, that's a pretty good deal. So overall, as we continue to answer the question of can Mark be trusted, hopefully you understand it is a resounding yes, which I think is pretty good.